There's a quiet truth most people never confront. If you can reach the age of 60 and still do this one thing, you are stronger than most men who ever lived. Not physically, not socially, but internally. Because strength, real strength, is not loud. It does not beg to be seen, and it does not fade with age. Most men grow older, but weaker inside. They become reactive, bitter, restless, pulled by regret, controlled by memory, haunted by what should have been. But a rare few become something else, calm, unshaken, free. The Stoics spoke often about this kind of strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote his private thoughts not as a king, but as a man trying to remain steady in a collapsing world. And the truth he discovered is uncomfortable. Time does not weaken a man. Lack of inner discipline does. If you are still watching, you already sense it. This video is not about motivation. It's about measurement, a mirror. Because by the end of this series, you will know exactly where you stand, and whether you are building the kind of strength that survives age or the kind that collapses under it. Most men spend their youth chasing approval, status, validation, noise. They believe strength is dominance, control over others, winning arguments, being admired. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. True strength is the ability to remain unchanged by chaos. If at 60 you can wake up without resentment, without the urge to prove yourself, without bitterness toward the world, you possess something rare. Because most men reach that age exhausted, still fighting ghosts, still angry at people who forgot them decades ago. The Stoics warned us about this early. They said, "You suffer more in imagination than in reality." And yet, most men never stop suffering. They replay old conversations, old failures, old humiliations. Their bodies age, but their minds remain trapped at 30, still arguing, still explaining, still defending. If you can let go, truly let go, you are already ahead of most. The first sign of rare Stoic strength is this. You no longer need the world to agree with you. Not your family, not strangers, not the past. At 60, many men still crave acknowledgement. They want someone to say, "You were right, you mattered, you were seen." But Stoic strength is self-contained. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is enough that you have lived according to your nature. No applause required." Ask yourself honestly, if today, at this moment, no one ever praised you again, no one apologized, no one validated your choices, would you still be at peace? Most wouldn't, and that is why they age poorly, emotionally. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering interpretation. Events do not break men. Meanings do. At 60, life has already taken things from you. People, opportunities, time. The weak man counts what he lost. The Stoic counts what remains within his control. Your opinions, your reactions, your values.
That is all you ever truly own. If you can accept this, not intellectually, but deeply, you have a strength no gym can build. Another mark of rare Stoic strength, you don't rush to be understood. You explain less, argue less, defend less. Not because you are defeated, but because you know clarity doesn't need noise. Most men feel invisible as they age, so they speak louder, prove harder, force relevance. The Stoic does the opposite. He becomes quieter, not withdrawn, not weak, intentional. If you can sit in silence without anxiety, without needing to fill the space, without reaching for distraction, that is strength. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is not being dragged by impulse. Freedom is being able to sit with yourself and not feel the urge to escape. At 60, many men cannot be alone with their thoughts. They drown them in noise, in screens, in nostalgia. But the Stoic trains solitude. He uses it to sharpen judgment, to clarify values, to detach from unnecessary suffering. This is why Stoic strength ages well. It doesn't depend on speed or beauty or social power. It depends on self-command. And here is the hard truth most never hear. If you don't practice this strength early, age will not grant it to you later. Time does not mature character. Habits do. If you are reactive at 30, you will be bitter at 60. If you are disciplined at 30, you will be calm at 60. Stoicism is not a philosophy of old men. It is a philosophy for becoming one properly. In the next part, we will confront the most dangerous illusion men carry into old age, the belief that strength is about holding on. It is not. It is about knowing what to release. If this message resonates with you, don't rush past it. Sit with it. And if you want to continue building the kind of strength that doesn't fade with age, subscribe to Real Stoic Word. This channel is not for noise. It is for men who want clarity. Soon we will talk about emotional detachment and why most men mistake it for coldness and pay the price for that misunderstanding. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, and stay ready.
By the time most men reach 60, something subtle has happened. Not to their bodies alone, but to their spirit. They don't notice it all at once. It fades quietly. They become quicker to complain, quicker to explain themselves, quicker to react. Life feels heavier, people feel louder, and peace feels rare. The Stoics saw this coming long before modern life existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote that time does not weaken a man. Lack of discipline does. Age only reveals what you've practiced your entire life. And this is where the rare strength begins. If at 60 you can still pause before reacting, you already possess what most men lose decades earlier. Because most men grow older but never grow steadier. They carry unresolved anger, unspoken regrets, old arguments they still replay in their minds. They live in the past or fear the future. The Stoic does neither. He lives here, right now. Calm does not come from having fewer problems. It comes from needing less control. And that lesson becomes harder with age, not easier. As responsibilities stack up, as losses accumulate, as the body slows, many men start resisting reality. They fight what is. They say, this shouldn't be happening. They say, people should respect me more. They say, I deserve better. But Stoicism teaches something sharper. Reality does not care what you deserve. It responds only to how you show up. If at 60 you can accept life as it is, without bitterness, you are already ahead of the majority. This is not passive acceptance. It is mastery. Epictetus warned that men are disturbed not by events, but by the stories they tell themselves about events. Most older men keep telling the same old stories about betrayal, about missed chances, about how the world changed for the worse. The Stoic lets those stories die. He refuses to carry unnecessary weight. And this is where strength becomes visible, not in the voice, not in the posture, but in restraint. If you can still choose silence over argument, still choose dignity over ego, still choose patience over being right, that is rare, extremely rare. Because modern culture teaches men to age loudly, to demand attention, to demand validation, to demand recognition for past achievements. Stoicism teaches the opposite. True authority doesn't announce itself, it settles. Think about the men you instinctively respect. They don't explain much. They don't chase agreement. They don't compete for dominance. They observe, they listen, they respond only when necessary. That is not weakness. That is earned calm.
And earned calm takes decades to build, unless you consciously train it. Most men never do. They let emotions rule their reactions. They let pride rule their decisions. They let comfort rule their discipline. So by 60, they feel trapped in habits they no longer control. The Stoic breaks that pattern. He understands that every reaction rehearsed today becomes a reflex tomorrow. So he trains restraint when it still feels uncomfortable. He practices letting go when it still feels unnatural, because he knows something crucial. Whatever you cannot control at 40 will dominate you at 60. That's why this strength is so rare. It requires long-term thinking in a short-term world. If at 60 you can still wake up without resentment, still speak without bitterness, still act without needing applause, you are not just strong, you are free. And freedom is the true Stoic goal. Not pleasure, not success, not admiration. Freedom from being pulled by every emotion. Freedom from needing to be understood. Freedom from carrying yesterday into today. Seneca wrote that the greatest burden is a mind unwilling to let go. Most men carry that burden until it breaks them. The Stoic sets it down, intentionally. And here's the part most people miss. This strength doesn't make life smaller, it makes it quieter. And in quiet, clarity appears. You see people more clearly. You see situations more accurately. You stop wasting energy on things that cannot be changed. And with age, that clarity becomes priceless. If you can still learn at 60, still adjust your thinking, still correct your behavior without ego, you possess a youth most men lost long ago. Because real aging is not physical, it is mental rigidity, the refusal to adapt, the belief that this is just how I am. The Stoic rejects that. He says, I am always in training, not to impress others, but to remain sovereign over himself. And that is why this strength matters, because the world will always test you more as you age, with disrespect, with loss, with invisibility. Only a disciplined mind can meet those tests without collapsing inward. If you're still watching this, ask yourself one quiet question. Can I pause before reacting, even now? If the answer is yes, you are already building what most men never will. And in the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll talk about the one Stoic habit that determines whether aging makes you bitter or powerful. Because strength at 60 is not accidental, it is trained, and it starts with what you refuse to react to. If this resonates with you, take a second to like the video. It helps this message reach men who need it, even if they don't know it yet. And stay with me.
By the time a man reaches 60, the world has already tested him. It has offered comfort. It has offered shortcuts. It has offered excuses. Most men accept them. That is why discipline at 60 is rare, and why a disciplined man at that age carries a strength that cannot be taught, copied, or faked. Stoics believed discipline was not about punishment, it was about freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the body will seek comfort, but the mind must seek order. Not because life demands it, but because chaos is expensive. And by 60, you've already paid enough. Here is the truth most people avoid. If you still wake up with structure at 60, if you still train your body when no one is watching, if you still say no to what weakens you, you are not aging, you are refining. Most men lose discipline as they grow older, not because they are tired, but because they believe they've earned rest. And rest slowly becomes decay. The Stoic understood something sharper. Comfort feels good today, but discipline feels good forever. That is why rare men at 60 still rise early, still walk with purpose, still control their appetites, still choose restraint over indulgence. Not because they are chasing youth, but because they refuse to surrender authority over themselves. This is the kind of strength the modern world doesn't celebrate. There are no applause, no viral clips, no praise. Just quiet respect and inner peace. And discipline is only the surface. The deeper strength comes next, detachment. At 60, most men are emotionally exhausted. They are still angry about old betrayals, still resentful about missed chances, still attached to how things should have gone. The Stoic does something different. He releases. Epictetus taught that suffering is not caused by events, but by our attachment to outcomes. By 60, a wise man understands this not as philosophy, but as lived truth. If you can let go of bitterness at 60, you are stronger than most men alive. If you no longer need apologies to move forward, if you no longer replay arguments in your head, if you no longer seek closure from people who never grew, that is rare Stoic strength. Detachment does not mean indifference, it means clarity. You still care, but you are no longer controlled. You still love, but you no longer cling. You still remember, but you do not bleed. This is why Stoic men age differently. They are not hardened, they are unburdened. And here is where most men misunderstand detachment. They think it means withdrawal, but the Stoic doesn't withdraw from life. He withdraws from noise, from gossip, from comparison, from emotional chaos. At 60, this becomes visible. The Stoic man listens more than he speaks, observes more than he reacts, chooses his words carefully or not at all, because he knows something most men learn too late. Silence is authority, and authority does not shout, it stands. This is why younger men often feel something around older Stoic men, even if they can't explain it. It's not dominance, it's gravity. When a man has disciplined his desires and detached from emotional dependence, he no longer leaks energy, he holds it, and people feel that. The third layer of rare strength at 60 is selectiveness. This is where most men fail completely. They say yes when they should say no. They keep relationships that drain them. They entertain conversations that weaken them.
The Stoic does the opposite. He becomes selective with his time, his attention, and his emotional access, not because he is cold, but because he understands value. At 60, time is no longer theoretical, it is finite. So the Stoic stops wasting it. He no longer explains himself to people who misunderstand him. He no longer proves himself to people who don't respect him. He no longer negotiates with chaos. And this selectiveness creates something powerful. Peace. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of alignment. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man should not waste the remainder of his life worrying about others unless it contributes to the common good. That line hits differently at 60, because by then, you know, most noise contributes to nothing. So the Stoic man chooses fewer people, fewer words, fewer battles, and in doing so, he gains strength. This is the paradox. As the body ages, the mind sharpens. As energy becomes limited, intention becomes precise, and that precision creates authority. People listen when a Stoic man speaks at 60 because he doesn't speak often, and when he does, it matters. This is not charisma, it's credibility, earned through restraint, earned through discipline, earned through decades of choosing the harder path when the easier one was available. And here is the emotional truth many men need to hear. If you are approaching 60 and feel calmer, clearer, less reactive, you are not losing fire, you are mastering it. The world tells men they decline after their prime. Stoicism says something else. A man's true strength appears after desire stops ruling him, after ego quiets, after fear loosens its grip, after approval becomes irrelevant. That is when a man becomes dangerous in the best way, unmovable, self-governed, free. And this strength cannot be bought, it cannot be rushed, it can only be built, one disciplined choice at a time. In the next and final part, we will bring everything together: purpose, legacy, and what it truly means to finish life strong, not loud, not desperate, but complete. Because if you can still live this way at 60, you don't just have strength, you have something far rarer. You have Stoic mastery. If you have made it this far in life and you can still do this, you are stronger than most men alive. Not physically, not loudly, but in the way that truly matters. Because real Stoic strength does not announce itself. It reveals itself in silence, restraint, and legacy. Most men never reach this point. They grow older, but not wiser, bitter, but not grounded, loud, but not respected. Stoicism was never about becoming hard. It was about becoming unshakable. And the man who carries Stoic strength into his later years carries something rare. He no longer needs to prove anything. That alone separates him from the crowd. At 60, the world expects you to shrink, to complain, to explain yourself endlessly, to soften your standards and beg for comfort. But the Stoic man does the opposite. He simplifies. He lets go of noise. He stops chasing validation. He stops arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding him. And something remarkable happens. People begin to feel his presence, not because he dominates rooms, but because he is grounded in himself. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. By this stage of life, the Stoic man's ambition is no longer applause, it is peace. And peace, when earned, is power. This is where legacy begins, not in what you say, but in how you live when no one is watching. The strongest men at 60 still wake up with discipline. They keep their word. They treat others with calm authority. They don't waste energy on resentment. They understand something most never learn. Life does not get quieter because the world changes. It gets quieter because you do. The Stoic man no longer reacts emotionally to disrespect. He observes. He adjusts. He moves forward. That ability, emotional non-reactivity, is a form of mastery. It is why people trust him, why younger men listen when he speaks, why his presence feels stabilizing rather than demanding. He doesn't chase relevance. Relevance follows him. And here's the truth few talk about. A man who reaches old age with his self-respect intact has already won. Because time strips away illusions. Status fades, strength weakens, crowds disappear. Only character remains. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca warned that many men live as if they will live forever, wasting their days on ego, anger, and distraction. But the Stoic man prepares, not with fear, with clarity. He accepts aging without resentment. He accepts limits without self-pity. He accepts change without losing himself. This is not resignation. This is wisdom. At 60, the Stoic man no longer competes with the world. He competes only with his former self. And because of that, he is free. He speaks less, but when he speaks, it carries weight. He moves slower, but with intention. He chooses peace over proving a point. That choice is strength, and it is rare. If you can still do this at 60, control your emotions, honor your values, and walk away from chaos, then you are not aging, you are ascending. Your legacy is not loud. It lives in how people feel around you, in the calm you bring to chaos, in the example you set without preaching. The Stoic man understands that the final chapter of life is not about accumulation. It is about alignment. Alignment between who you are and how you live. And when those match, there is nothing left to prove. That is the quiet power of Stoicism. That is rare strength. That is why few men ever reach it. And if you are still walking this path, discipline intact, mind steady, ego quiet, then know this: you are stronger than most men alive, not because of what you have, but because of what no longer controls you. Thank you for walking this path with us. If this message resonated, like the video. It helps this wisdom reach someone who needs it today. Subscribe to Real Stoic Word if you are building strength that lasts. And comment one lesson you want to carry into the next chapter of your life. Because Stoicism is not about surviving life. It is about mastering it. Stay grounded, stay unshaken, stay stoic.